Live on Kingdom Radio, we are talking cartel. The cartel, man, I think the number one thing that the whole entire country is talking about right now is the border. And when people are talking about the border, there's good people coming across the border. There's people that can be American taxpayers. There's good families. There's good workers. There's good work ethic. But unfortunately, there also is some bad people. And there's also some people bringing across drugs. And a lot of Americans aren't aware of what it's like to actually cross the border and what kind of crime really is potential to be in America that's understood that that's what the deal is in Mexico. Like when you're talking about Italian gangs and this is my property and they have a whole nother law. This is what the cartel is in Mexico still to this day. And this is the dangers that are coming across the border, I should say. We have Joe Lanou. Joe Lanou is not only a military veteran, but he has some experience with these cartels. What's up, Joe? Let's talk about some cartels, man. What's going on?
Well, good evening. Good evening. Yeah, no, I worked as in law enforcement under narcotics enforcement in Texas, where we worked as in some hider groups doing cartel level cases. And a lot of my knowledge, some maybe not even come from exact experience, but just through interviews and just training that you'd receive when you're working on those types of cases.
So what's up with the
cartels? Are interesting. They're not your typical criminal gang. They're essentially the government in the areas down south of the border, and it's not just in Mexico. This form of local government is essentially what it is. When we talk about going and attacking the cartel, if you went to Juarez, you're going to have to attack the people of Juarez because the roads are paved by the cartel, the schools are built by the cartel. You invite the cartel leaders to every quinceañera, every wedding in the community, and he shows up with cash in hand. He makes himself a friend. The communities depend on that. They also control the local economy, which is doing real well on the routes where immigrants are coming up now because they're charging per head to get through the territories. But yeah, I put together a little history on how the Mexican cartels or drug cartels as we know them today came about. We want to look at it.
Let's do it, man. I tell you what, there's nothing more exciting than these kind of things. I mean, it's dangerous to think that it could be in your backyard, but when someone talks about mafiosos and John Gotti's and El Chapos, it's very interesting for people to learn about this. But if you live this, it's not very interesting as much as it is dangerous, dude. And let's start off right here. We're going to bring up the screen here. Joe Lanou has a little bit of a slideshow. Here it is. El Patron, the boss.
Yeah, look at Pablo Escobar, El Patron, the boss. And the reason I bring him in, he was the first real narco cartel. These cartels or these gangs have been operating in these areas, Colombia, South America, Latin America, since the Europeans came over. They're like the little local governments. A lot of them, there's a cartel in Mexico that started La Familia that actually started out as an anti-drug group and to do things for their community because the government's lacking there, federal government lacks. But I bring him up. He was the first one. He was the first one to take the cartel model and turn it into a criminal drug cartel, but brought in a lot more violence than what you typically see in the cartels prior to that. We go for him. He was he got us started with it. There we go. But the first one in Mexico was the bosses of bosses, El Jefe de Jefe, Miguel Gallardo.
The boss of bosses.
The boss of bosses. Now, if you go back and if you think about what they called El Patron, which is the boss, Escobar, they called him El Patron. This guy is the boss of bosses, and that's not a mistake that it's read that way. He's not just the jefe; he's the jefe of the jefes. But what he did was he made a deal with Escobar, the Medellin cartel, to bring in cocaine. Prior to this, your cartels along the border, as long as there's been a American border, Texas Mexican border, there's been trafficking going across. During Prohibition, the Mexicans supplied a lot of alcohol to the southern parts of the United States. Any type of illegal smuggling, getting people across the border for immigration reasons. The cartels in these areas, they control that land, and they've been doing that since the beginning. So this guy just added cocaine to it. Now, in the 70s, they started growing marijuana fields. The Guadalajara cartel had still today the largest marijuana plot known. And I forget how many acres it was, but it was huge. It was called the Buffalo, but it was the largest outdoor marijuana grow still ever to date. But they control that. But he brings in cocaine, becomes one of the most powerful people in the cartel business, especially drug trafficking in Mexico. His partner was Don Nito. Don Nito is literally Sir Clean. He's Mr. Clean. But he was a co-founding partner, Ernesto Francesco. The reason I bring him up is he called a shot to kidnap, torture, and kill a DEA agent, Enrique Kiki Camarena, in 1985. This was a big deal. Before the federales, the Mexican government pretty much left the cartels to do what they do. They'll run some raids, they'll make some noise, but they didn't do anything particularly to stop them. But after the killing of Kiki Camarero, it pulled the Guadalajara cartel together. The three top members went to jail, including the boss of bosses and Don Nito himself, which, by the way, those two guys are still alive. This was in
jail right now.
One goes to prison in 1989. One goes to prison in 1980, or gets in jail in 1985. But one's like 95. One is damn near right behind him. But both of them guys are still in jail for the killing of Enrique Kiki Camarera, and they're alive. Interesting enough.
Wow. But El Chapo, he went. He just went like a couple of years ago, right? When they finally got him for the last time.
They did. Let me go back through some of these. Let me go back to, I got one out of sequence here. The Sinaloa cartel. Sinaloa cartel existed, but it didn't do any drugs until after the killing of Kiki Camarera. After the killing of Kiki Camarera, that's when the boss of bosses got together and distributed the land. The cartels are kind of already there, but got them into the narco business. And it almost still lies along those lines today, although some cartels have come and go, but the territories have remained the same, except for some on the Gulf Coast where the Gulf Cartel operates. But your first narco cartel was the Guadalajara cartel. Then you move along after the killing of Kiki, or before the killing of Kiki Camarera. The Gulf Cartel has actually been around since the 1930s. They did trafficking, prostitution, gambling, things you would expect a mafioso to do. Until the 1980s, when the nephew of the founder, Juan Garcia, brought in cocaine into the Gulf Cartel. But they're nasty guys, and I bring them up to talk about the Zetas. The Zetas are in red if you look at the graphic. In the Gulf Cartel is green, the Gulf Cartel, because it's on the Gulf Coast. But the Zetas at one time were not a true drug trafficking. They were our former Mexican special forces that are corrupt. They control routes. If you wanted to bring cocaine, the reason their borders, their existing territory goes from the southern end of Mexico to the top of Mexico, because that's what they originally started doing. They would bring the loads up and give them security, which meant going through every little Mexican city and town, paying off people and just keeping the route clear so that nobody harassed any deliveries up and down. The Gulf Cartel would package it, prepare it, and send it into the United States using the Zetas to get it across the border in a large portion of there. They controlled that portion of the border. And I say all this to say this is what's happening with the same way cocaine moves from the southern end of Mexico to the north end into the United States is the same way migrants are doing it. They're just using them as a commodity. So a migrant, when he comes across the border, he may pay 2 or 3 cartels, and then you've got local cartels and slivers of cartels that are inside of cartels as they go along. For every migrant that you see on a train, and that's the last of my slide if you want to pull off of it.
That's the last one. All right.
Yeah, that's the last one. But after you pull off every migrant you see on a train, they paid a fee to get there. And this is why your cartels are pushing along and making as much money. And it doesn't matter what happens there. Brother, there's cartels in the avocado industry. The large portion of the avocados are grown in Mexico. There's a cartel that controls that. There's cartels that control the land around natural gas pumping stations. And they pay the federal government. They're not hiding. They just don't have a federal government that's attacking them, not with any success. But that's why each one of them makes make enough money each year to run their own country, to buy their own armament, buy their own weapons, and they pave roads, build schools, and they take care of people. And the people have their back down in Mexico.
Well, we got the rock and roll rebel on the show that just did a show on YouTube. I have a feeling. What's up, rock and roll rebel?
What's up, everybody?
When did you? What was your show tonight? It was on the border.
A little bit of border, the Texas trucker rally coming at Corey Bush getting busted.
I heard they ran out of gas. That with Joe Biden's inflation, it was so high they ran out of gas, and it's off now, right?
Nah, these boys are probably funded pretty good. It's probably some type of group funding them. So I heard they're going to.
Did they have some issue with people were afraid to turn out because they thought it was a honeypot by the feds to do another January 6th thing?
Nah, I wouldn't be worried too much about that. But it's interesting on this whole cartel thing because a lot of it is the CIA. A lot of they had that one whistleblower that was in front of Congress talking about the CIA was supplying the drugs and all that. And the CIA knows who all those drug players are down there. They just allow them to fight each other. And then sometimes they kill them off like they did Pablo. Pablo Escobar is probably one of the most famous ones. And they had the FBI and then they had some Rangers in there that I think he got shot on a roof. And then don't forget Barry Seal. You know Barry Seal? They made a movie about Barry Seal. He was flying cocaine out of
there was a bunch of movies like based on a true story.
No, it's a real true story. Barry Seal was a pilot. He was like a what was the old airline? It was a AA, American Airlines, how it used to be, TWA, something like that. The old before they all merged together and all that. But he was literally running drugs for the Central Intelligence Agency.
You talking about the one that Tom Cruise was in?
Yeah, Tom Cruise. Yeah, Tom Cruise played Barry Seal. Yeah.
Barry Seal. I think he was out of Arkansas, and
Arkansas.
I thought he was. I don't know how he got his pilot's. I don't know if he was a military pilot prior.
What's that?
I don't know if you remember he was a military pilot, how he got started, but yeah, that's a true story.
Yeah, it's a true story.
I think the CIA has played around in it, but the CIA didn't build the cartels. Cartels have been there before drugs. The drugs haven't been in Mexico until the late 80s. Prior to that, they're slinging prostitution and gambling right along the border and
marijuana. Y'all remember marijuana used to have seeds in it?
yeah, back in the day. That was like what in the 70s when it had seeds in it, right?
Well, you remember when it was hard.
Or if you're in high school in the 90s, I think that marijuana had seeds in it.
But you remember they graduated.
Yeah. They graduated. Check this, like bazookas. Joe Lanou said that's not a bazooka. What is that?
That's a javelin, I believe.
That's an AT-4.
An AT-4. What's an AT-4?
Yeah.
It's an unguided anti-tank weapon, anti-tank 4. It's an unguided munition. It shoots like a recoilless rifle, essentially, with a. I think it's either a 30 or 60 millimeter projectile that's got a penetrator on the end of it. It'll puncture armor. It's not going to take out a tank, but for an armored vehicle, make your day bad.
Yeah, speaking of a bad day, here's a group of Hondurans that crossed the border, and they're about 20 miles away from like where Eagle Pass is and the border where people are crossing, and they just told on themselves. So the person who's speaking Spanish over there is kind of reporting to him, and it's like, hey, where are you from? Honduras. 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 Every single person in this whole entire group was from Honduras, and they all decided to call. It looks like they have little bags, like, with all their belongings, I guess, because they're going across the river. Is that part of the cartel's coyote feed that they offer the bags and everything to get across the river?
I think those are Border Patrol property bags. They're told to put their belt and shoelaces in because they're going to take them into custody for processing.
Yeah, it looks like something when you get out of the pokey poke. They give you a little bag full of your shit.
Yeah. I believe that's what it is.
Yeah. And speaking of building some walls, I seen this little thing. Abbott was on Twitter tweeting today talking about he's going to use any means necessary to build these walls. Look how big that damn thing is in comparison to those people that are walking underneath it. Like, oh my God, dude. Look how tall the wall is.
Yeah, but they're Mexican. They can build ladders.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I want to electrify like that one guy said, where they're going to put alligators in the moat and then electrify the fence and put
An
some
alligator
landmines.
moat would be a nice viral YouTube.
That'd be
Have some guys crossing with the hungry alligators chasing after you.
A
No,
bunch of
that'd be interesting.
alligators in the Rio Grande.
Man, I don't know about that. I would do this.
But no, Governor Greg Abbott, he did say that he's ready for anything. This is him. I think it was last night on Fox.
The number one issue in America. Americans want a secure border. If Joe Biden federalizes our National Guard, that would be the biggest political blunder that he could make. And that's why I think he will not do it.
So Sean Hannity's trying to bait him into like, hey, look, if Joe Biden says I'm going to come down there and I'm going to take over the National Guard, what are you going to do about it? Can try to bait him into a little clickbait, but he stayed pretty strong and stayed pretty smooth.
Of course,
there.
I am prepared in the event that they do make such a blunder to make sure that Texas will be able to continue to secure our border.
He's going to continue the border whether he wants to or not. And I was looking at X or Twitter, and they were saying that if the federal government does say that they want to take over the Texas National Guard, they will not listen to the federal government. They're going to listen to whatever Texas says, which was pretty rebellious but interesting. Rock and roll rebel. I mean, talking about rebellious. Let's hear from the rebel. What do you think about that one, brother?
I also wanted to, since you were talking about the cartels, I also wanted to bring up George Young. You remember him from Johnny Depp played that movie. Great movie, Blow.
Yeah, that was like my favorite movie, man.
Yeah, that movie rocks. And he was running Mad Cocaine too. He was running Mad Cocaine from Pablo Escobar. But yeah, for the border, I mean, the border is the border. I think it's all just smoke and mirrors. They're trying to destroy America. The only thing I can think of is why would you bring all these people in here that have no skills? There's no jobs for these people. They have no houses. They have nothing. They're in the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City. They're in Chicago Airport, and they're doing nothing. They're just collecting checks. They're talking on their cell phones. They're doing drugs. I saw like 3 migrants the other day just got busted for doing stuff to women they shouldn't be doing. So the only plan I can think of is they want to destroy America. That's the only thing I can think of why they're letting all these people in.
What do you think, Leno?
It seems organized, but I think it's
it is. It's the Red Cross, right? Isn't it the Red Cross? There's another organization that's paying for all these people.
There's a ton of them. Yeah, when you talk about NGOs who are directly funded by the NGOs that are directly funded by the U.S. government, yeah, they're directing them in. I almost feel like it's more of a socialistic plot because these people that are coming down there. The reason, go back to the cartels. The reason cartels work and that you can't just kill the cartels, you have to kill the people too because they're one and the same. Is because that's how the culture is south of the border. Because every government, there's not one all the way through that doesn't fight with these local cartels, and the local people do what they want to do. So in the United States, we're doing the same thing. Each state wants to do what it wants to do. They do the same thing, but it's broke up into areas that are controlled by cartels. You bring that same mentality here, then it's not hard to start voting out. Well, we don't need the Second Amendment, and we need to get 2/3 or 3/4 of the ratification of the states. It wouldn't be hard to do that if most of your numbers are thinking socialistic anyway. They're not thinking that's a right that's really not mine to give away because my children may want to participate in that at some point.
True that.
That's where I think honestly it feels like it's more of a socialistic plot other than so simple as we're just going to, these guys will vote Democrat when they get in here. Because Hispanically, that doesn't always hold up true.
Lanu has experience not just with cartel and which cartels what and different gangs and stuff, but Lanu has actual law enforcement and even federal cases dealing with cartels bringing things across the border and taking it all the way through court and the whole entire thing. Lanu, tell us about when if I'm trying to go from another country and go through Mexico and go across the border, I mean, what would someone like that experience?
I mean, if you're doing it like the migrants are doing it, and honestly, right now it's NGOs that are pushing it. But as they move up, you see them walking through the towns. You'll see them on
trains.
Promise you, the folks that get on trains, they got there by paying some sort of a penance, whatever they get, and it's usually not much. It's hey, give me $1 for these 800 people that are getting on the train. That guy's going to cash out. but everything's costing them money as you move up. And it's almost odd where they're getting the money. I almost think that some of that's coming from the NGOs, but the NGOs plan out the routes. The NGOs also make deals with the cartels of allowing so many through for whatever concession that they're willing to give until you get to the U.S. border. And at that point, you got to decide where you're going to cross. And that's when you're going to have to make a deal with whatever cartel's in control of the area of land that you're trying to go across. A lot of them like to come into Texas because Texas is more populated along that stretch where the Rio Grande is versus when you get into New Mexico to all the way to California until you get to San Diego. It's all desert and there's not a lot of population or infrastructure. So that's why you see a lot of it coming through Texas. Texas taking a brunt of a lot of it.
And, just as a quick little commercial, the reason why the border is messed up, it's not because the cartels. It's not because of any of that. It's because Donald Trump is a racist. I was watching this today earlier on X.
Let's be clear. There is a crisis right now, but it's not because the southern border is open or because immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country, which the Republicans and their racist cult leader, Donald Trump, want you to believe. The real crisis is one of, nope, it is.
The real reason is because, the Republican cult leader, Donald Trump, is racist. That's the real problem. It's not really the border. That's not the real crisis. It's Trump. It's like this person is elected in office. This is not like a bystander. This is elected officials gibbering this kind of stuff. It's like, what the hell are you talking about?
Right? That was Cory Bush.
Yeah, sure was. And then check this out. Like, this is like an actual, hey, I'm the police and I'm the government. And I'm just going to, apprehend these guys and try to die down the issue. And here's like the federales trying to confront the cartel. This is like the streets of New York, like in 10 years.
That's sad.
Look at that dude's leg.
Este es el elemento que recibe un impacto calibre 50 en su pierna.
All that fire was incoming, nothing outgoing. They didn't shoot back at all. They just sat there and got shot.
Yeah, remember like when they arrested Pablo Escobar the first time, they were like just killing innocent people like all over the place. They were just killing people, and then they were fighting with the police to the point they just shook hands and said, "Hey man, it's over. We don't want this to continue. Okay, whatever. Let's coexist." And that's when he really took his rise to power. Like even when he was in prison, he would just get right out. They own everything.
He built his own prison. Pablo built his own prison.
Man, the people around there, he was the biggest source of income, and the reason people lived as good as they did. People loved him. In order to get to him, you had to get through his people. That's that biggest fire. The firefight you're talking about, where they basically come to a stalemate. Yeah, no, exactly right. And that's kind of my point about the cartels: is you can't go down there and just take out a cartel. You take out the leader. Even if you take out the cartel, the Gulf Cartel has been fractured and beat up so many times that it's got so many different names. La Familia, it's another one that's been put on its knees. It'll come, but that area will be controlled by somebody and doing the same thing again on these cartels. There's no fix to that. Denial of the border
there's
is
like,
what you got to do.
Like 7 families. I believe there's like 7 families of Mexico, and then of course once you take out the leader or something, the nephew pops up, the cousin pops up, a brother pops up.
It's not familial. It's not. It's whoever has the following. When there's a change in the leadership of a cartel, it's more like an election, but it depends on but the votes are how many guns you have on your side. He who has the most followers that you've made the most deals with, you talk about promotions and bigger cuts on it's a business, bigger cuts on the money coming in. You get your power behind you, and that's how you keep it. One way. The other way is that you are the power, you have the gun, and you're most willing to start striking. That's where you have assassinations and taking people out like a monarchy. But there's not families. These cartels are businesses, and best way to describe them, they're local governments in the regions that they operate in. If you look at that, like the map I had up earlier, if that's in the red, everything public, municipality, everything that rolls through there, Zetas get a piece of. They're like the government that is able to collect a tax on anything, but doesn't have to provide anything.
Wow.
Mafia. Like that, you have to pay protection. But if you talk to, this is
This is when they
Guzman's
got Guzman's son. Yeah. Like, when the family members take over, I mean, this is like them getting, I mean, if you listen to the audio, it's people aren't very happy about this whole situation. You hear gunfire in the background.
Sal al video. Salga. Tranquilo. Señor, muéstrame.
I mean, when they had Pablo Escobar, like whenever they would, like he was going all over the place and he would be here and he'd be there. And as soon as they would find out, like maybe he's here or there, they would go to find him. But everyone loved him so much, the whole entire town would be like, okay, here they come, or here they come. So he would just move about because they knew anytime someone was coming. And he was just so loved. And then, but this is them getting his son, taking him into custody, which is pretty crazy.
A good example of on how leadership can change. When El Chapo was taken into custody and brought into the U.S. Stand trial, his son did step up and initially took control of Sinaloa, but I think it's fractured 3 times now from 3 different factions. So the Sinaloa is not as strong as it used to be, which is probably a good reason why the federales are there to be able to pull him in without a big gunfight in the street.
It's crazy. Did you see
the
that?
Federal
that
government
journalist?
in Mexico is not in charge.
The CIA probably tipped him off where he was.
Did you see that?
I don't know about the
journalist
CIA.
on Jesse
No.
Waters. Go ahead.
All I've learned about the CIA and cartels, I've learned on TV and movies. I've never seen it otherwise.
Yeah, they're very involved. Supposedly they pushed crack in the 80s, right in South Central.
Yeah,
The
I've seen it
cartel.
in movies. I don't know. Cartels
Yeah,
push.
there's proven facts for it. There's facts for it. There's the guy, the whistleblower. Where's the whistleblower tape? I'll show you the whistleblower that's talking about he met the CIA and they were running the drugs.
The CIA.
Well, hang on. I don't dispute that. What I'm saying is that the CIA is not running these cartels. They may
I
work
don't
with
know.
them, but they're not running them. They're not running them. That's been going on long before the CIA was ever there. The Gulf cartel has been going on since the 1930s. It's just the way the government, there is no big government. It's the way the people get redressed. If they have disputes, they go to the cartel. If they have husband beats the wife, she goes to the cartel. That's the government for in these areas that they work.
This was like what the
believe
gangsters
CIA.
used to be in New York and stuff like that. The organized crime and the mafiosos. You'd say, hey, I try to work it out with this guy, but we're having a disagreement. It's a disagreement to the point where the police can't help me. No one can help me. I need to go to a whole nother government or a whole nother policing, and I need you to police this. And they would say, okay. And then they would come up with a compromise or something, or a sit down or something, or they would actually say, hey, this person's beating me up. They would usually, as that person actually works for the mafia as well. And then you would pay for protection and things like that. You would pay for the police, like going from public school, going to like college or something. There's a whole nother level of protection that's better than the police. And they're actually running things and they're actually paying off the police. So they are the police and they're getting protection money and telling the police, stay out of it. I got this. Yeah. And not the mafia, but the cartel is very similar to that, right?
It's absolutely similar to that. But the other thing they do things that are people look at as good. It's like a Robin Hood situation. But they look at if there's a widow in town, she's not doing without. Orphans aren't doing without. Come Christmas time, every quinceañera, every wedding, you invite the cartel leaders, but they come with their pockets full. They fill your bread basket. They make sure that you feel welcomed and loved, and therefore it becomes what it is. That people will protect their cartels.
Mm-hmm. Here's a lady.
And I don't know about the CIA. I'm not surprised the CIA. I know there was some shady stuff going down in the 80s with drugs and the CIA and some weapons and the Contras, and I get that. I don't think the CIA's created the cartels because the cartels existed a lot longer than the CIA did. They existed longer before drug trafficking.
Here's a lady testifying right here, and she's saying that we don't need border patrol. We need the United States military, and she's talking about the cartel.
But I don't think that members in this room and other rooms at the Capitol understand that we are actually at war. And we're at war with the cartels. We're losing our children. We're losing a generation of children.
Talking about all the fentanyl coming across the border. Her mother and daughter died, bringing drugs across. And I mean, pretty much like Lanu and I were talking last night, Rebel. And he was saying, like, for terrorist cells and stuff, he'd be ashamed if they weren't able to come across, because everyone's coming across. I mean, to think of all the bad people coming across and who could, I mean, anyone, like, now's the time. And not only now is the time, it's all over social media. It's all over American news. If you want to come over, now is the time, but you better do it now, because that little door is closing, and it's going to be closed by November when we get new leadership in here. But as far as Joe Biden, he's getting paid off by the cartel for sure, and he's keeping the border open as long as he can.
100%. You see that screen share?
Let me see what you got, bud. Okay, go ahead. You maximize it.
National security, the necessity of secrecy in conducting foreign policy. But some experts claim that covert action does not work in the interest of the U.S. national security, nor does it create a more stable world.
How much money, according to your understanding, did Mr. Secord take from the sale of arms to Iran?
I still don't know. I don't even know that he did.
Was it your understanding that there was $8 million either in Swiss bank accounts or in investment accounts at CSF?
No, sir.
Facts are that Secord and North and Hakeem are wonderful operators of a secret war, of a shadow government, operators for a shadow government, are people who still have control of $8 million of United States money, our money, and they are controlling it, got it locked up in a Swiss bank somewhere, or off on a CD somewhere else.
The Contra resupply operation was involved in cocaine trafficking.
Although there was enough evidence to warrant investigation into CIA drug trafficking, there was no serious interest on the part of committee members, and no first-hand witnesses were called.
But this is like the news talking about something, which you can't trust the news to say anything. They're just like what we're talking about. The cartel is at the border. People tuning in. There's 8 people listening. Oh, cartel's at the border. And we're just saying that so people listen to the show. But, there is cartel at the border, but it's just, some of these stories about the CIA and stuff like that. It's true, but that's like not the number one. That's a small percentage. The number one thing is, I think, is people coming over that are loyal to the cartel, or people that come over and they can't afford to pay the cartel's fee. So in exchange, they have to be a mule. Or when they get over, half of their family is still held by the cartel and they owe them money. So when someone owes you money and they have your family hostage, tell me what you wouldn't be willing to do. If someone has your family member, you'd be willing to do damn near anything.
What are we talking about? We're talking about drug trafficking?
Well, we're talking about, hey, I'm coming across the border and you're passing by this zone and they're saying, hey, here's the price.
Okay. Let's back up. Rebel threw up a good deal. That was Iran-Contra scandal. Actually, I lived through it. I remember that. But the
was that G?
Yeah, I think no doubt.
No, that was the G. Gordon lady was Nixon wiretaps.
It was Watergate deal. But the yeah, no doubt there was some shady shit that went on there. In fact, North was even convicted. I think he was pardoned later, but convicted of whatever his role was in it. But I think they were doing that to rinse funds or generate funds they could use for black operations to buy weapons for the Contras, because I think there was a congressional or a law saying that we couldn't supply weapons to the Contras, so they had to do it off books. I think that was all about.
Yeah, I got another.
I'm not saying the CIA and the government's not shady. I'm just saying that they're not controlling the cartels.
How do I share this? Watch this one.
Okay.
CIA and the government's not shady. I'm just saying.
You have it up?
Yeah, it's up right now. Hold on, let me hit this button.
Oh yeah, maximize that. Here you go.
Been recruited by CIA personnel who attempted to recruit me in the late 70s to become involved in protecting agency drug operations in this country. I have been trying to get this out for 18 years, and I have the evidence. My question for you is very specific, sir. If in the course of the IG's investigations and Fred Hitz's work, you come across evidence of severely criminal activity,
let him speak
and it's classified, will you use that classification to hide the criminal activity, or will you tell the American people the truth?
That guy was an LAPD officer.
They don't sound like they're too happy about it. It's like as soon as he says that, you know, like hold up, order. That looked like she gets the order back. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt he was a police officer. I don't know what he was trying to say. I mean, I don't know.
Did you see Margarita Wilkinson?
Margarita Wilkinson. My cousin was kidnapped by the cartels. My grandmother was beaten and sprayed with machine gun fire. I lost friends. These cartels will stop at nothing, and Joe Biden will do nothing to stop them. I will secure the border, stop the fentanyl, no amnesty for illegals. I'm Margarita Wilkinson. I approve this ad. I can't change what the cartels did to my family. Send me to Congress, and I'll make sure they don't hurt yours.
The number one issue in America, the border.
That's a damn good ad.
That's a fantastic ad. Joe Biden can't do it, and I can't. I seen Joe Biden. Did you see he had an interview today, like right next to the chopper. You could barely even hear a word he was saying. It was like, well, you know, I don't want to expand the war anymore in Iran, and I'm having a trouble hearing you. But anyway, you know, I gotta go. Boom. I mean, I'm sure the people that work for Joe, they're like, look, man, stop talking to people. You're just putting more and more clips out. No one has confidence in what you're saying. Let's go in front of the chopper. That's where they can barely hear you. That way, if you stutter or something, you have a good explanation of why you're doing that. And then just say a few words and then jump on that chopper and take off. You know, because, you know, your plane's waiting.
I think you're giving them too much planning.
Play this Rogan clip.
Yeah, what were you saying though, Lanu?
I said if they were that good at planning, he'd have less gaffes. They're not that good. That's like the press secretary calling soldiers folks.
Push play, dog.
Exposed it on a hearing on CNN. You ever seen this? Jamie pulled up.
I will tell you, Director Deutsch, as a former Los Angeles police narcotics detective, that the agency has dealt drugs throughout this country for a long time. Director Deutsch, I will refer you to 3 specific agency operations known as Amadeus, Pegasus, and Watchtower. I have Watchtower documents heavily redacted by the agency. I was personally exposed to CIA operations and recruited by CIA personnel who attempted to recruit me in the late 70s to become involved in protecting agency drug operations in this country. I have been trying to get this out for 18 years, and I have the evidence.
You should immediately bring that information to the Los Angeles Police Department.
I did bring this information out 18 years ago, and I got shot at and forced out of LAPD because of it.
It's wild.
Wild, dude.
Well, look, man, let's don't forget.
Rebel's trying to make his point. He ain't stopping. He has 5 videos backing this stuff up.
Well,
he ain't backing down.
Let me help Rebel out a little bit.
But Rebel's never been to the border. He's never had any interactions with the cartel, but he has had some interactions with these videos, and Joe Rogan is a very reliable source, so I will give you that.
Look, I think both things are true. All I said was that I don't think the CIA is controlling the cartels, but I will tell you the CIA going back to the 60s, and I don't know about today. We may find out in 10 years how dirty they are today. But you go back from the way they did Kennedy, the things that they were doing against Martin Luther King, the what's the one where they did the LSD project? What was
MK Ultra.
MK Ultra. These are not rumors.
Rebel, how do you know all this stuff, bro?
I'm into finding the truth, and I don't believe our history is one big lie. Our history is one big lie. Dinosaurs, space, all this stuff. Once you find God, bro, you realize where the real truth is, and they're trying to fight some holy war right now, and you can see it. It feels like good versus evil, right?
Yeah, maybe. Speaking of good versus evil, I got this congresswoman. We're talking about American Congress. A congresswoman from Somalia that pledges allegiance to Somalia first and Muslim second, and nothing about America whatsoever. You see this?
waa laga yaabaa meelaha qaarkood inaan isku xagxagano laakiin haddii runtii ay imaato waxaan nahay dad isku tashto dad walaalo ah dad dhiig lah dad isku og inay Soomaali yihiin inay Muslim yihiin oo iyagana isku hiiliya dadka walaalahoodna u hiiliya.
People did some bad things.
So it's she pledges allegiance to Somalia first, and then Muslim second, and that's it. I mean, that's 1 and 2. You're 1, 2. And I was hearing Lanu saying that they have like where are they from?
It's around Minnesota, Deerfield, Minneapolis. I think it's Deerfield, Minnesota, I believe. But it's a Somali community that came over during the mid '90s when
Lanu hates Somalians.
Not a fan. They can have it. She can have it. She loves Somalia so much. She can go back to that shithole and she can stick it up there. I don't care. If they want to stay in Deerfield, Minnesota, and people are cool with that, they can have it up there. But I don't want it around me, and I don't want to hear no more out of her crap. If that's who they want as their representative, jump on and have it. Why don't you chew some cotton while you're at it and see if you can destroy what you did up there, just like you destroyed the whole country of Somalia.
Wow.
No,
all right.
I don't have anything good to say about that.
And you use the word slavery. You're exactly right. That's what it is. You may recall the last time Alejandro Mayorkas testified in front of the Judiciary Committee where I put up a poster board with a picture of colored wristbands. And I asked him a question. I said, Mr. Secretary, what are these colored wristbands? And you and I are both lawyers. As lawyers, we never ask a question we don't know the answer to. I'll tell you, Mayorkas's answer blew me away. He said, I have no idea what those wristbands are.
We know what those wristbands are. Joe Lanu what those wristbands are. Let me see here. Hey, what do you think about the new graphic, bro? What do you think about this little Kingdom Radio graphic right here?
Looks nice.
Huh?
Looks nice.
Made that today, bro. Made that today. Yeah, the wristbands are actually for when you come through and you pay the cartel for your entry, and they give you these wristbands, whether you owe the cartel money or how much money do you owe the cartel, they have these little wristbands on, is what that is. You know about that? Rebel?
Yeah, isn't that how they identify them, right? Who they are?
Yeah, with these little wristbands. It's like when you get into the club and stuff, but this is like when you get into the club, like you're on the way to America, but you got to pay the fine first through the cartel. Did you see the white boy that actually went down there, like the journalist, and he went down there, and him and his brother actually got apprehended by the cartel on Jesse Waters today?
No, I didn't see that.
Check it out.
Like a pretty white fellow with proper English skills. How are you able to fit in this caravan?
Well, we did our best. I mean, as far as fitting in, we kind of stuck out like sore thumbs, but you just got to get along and, be aware of your surroundings and honestly hope for the best, because it was just my brother and I, and luckily we came out the other end alive. We were the only
he went all the way to
during that night.
He went all the way to like going with the caravan, a whole full caravan. He went down into Mexico and the whole caravan coming into America and how it goes. And then when the cartel found him, they actually took him and his brother and had his head covered over with the sheet and everything. But then he was like, hey, don't do this. Don't do this. I'm an American journalist. And they let him out in the middle of the field. He thought he was going to die, but he did make it to Jesse Waters and tell the story.
Boy, I don't know if there's any way I'd do that, make that trick.
But he said that they took their cell phones and their recording equipment and they smashed it with a crowbar. So he had to go back and take another video. So they actually did it 2 times, and that video is 1 of 2. They had to come back and do a second trip to capture the rest of the footage. But that was on the white boy and his brother coming through with a gang of people coming across the border, but he did it and went through the whole thing. Did you see the one where the old man was talking about that the Red Cross and everyone is actually giving people directions of how to get back here? Did you see that one?
Yeah, there's pamphlets. They're funding that.
Yeah, I don't think that's a mystery. I don't think it's not hidden, just nobody's talking about it. And it's not just the Red Cross. There's several NGOs down there that are providing aid. They also give them advice on how to answer credible asylum questions.
Yeah, it's right here. Here's the guy talking about it.
The Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders, they are handing out maps. We have them. Handing out maps to people in Middle America and South America. They're handing them out with the train schedules, the stops where you'll be welcome, the maps, how to go, where to go to cross into the United States. the Red Cross, the United Nations, and Doctors Without Borders. Those are three that we can verify because we have the documentation. We have what they're handing out. This is an organized plot to collapse the United
States.
Honestly, it's something. It's not stupidity. It's not stupidity that we're letting this happen. You know, you go with the WF conspiracy that they want a one world government. The only way you're going to get a one world government, you're going to have to take the United States down a notch or two. And I go back again. You bring in people and you don't assimilate them like Deerfield, Michigan, or Minnesota. You don't assimilate them. You don't. They don't become actually American citizens. They just Hondurans or anybody from any other country just living, because they're going to attract to their own groups. They speak the same language. Then it's real easy to get votes through. It's real easy to get things passed that would not be held sacred to our hearts, like our Second Amendment rights or any other constitutional right that we have.
Yeah,
the Democrats want to stay in power. That's all this is. They think they're going to vote Democrat, and usually they do, because I believe the average IQ of a immigrant is probably in the low to high 80s. So they're not very educated. They're going to come over here and get propaganda left and right by the TV and everything, and they're going to vote blue. And then I guess their main goal is if they can flip Texas to blue, then they win every election from here on out if they just keep the states they have, because Texas has so many electoral votes.
Well, then there's that population thing about the more population, like Lanu was talking about the other day. If you can get 10,000 or 20 more thousand, not really voters, but just the census says that they're there, then you have more electoral votes per state. So like California, people are voting with their feet all over the place. I mean, you see in New York, even Thomas Jefferson was like, man, I don't even want to be a part of this. Just remove my statue from the dead. Like the ghost of Thomas Jefferson was like, bro, I don't even want to be a part of New York. If you would have seen what the fathers, what I envisioned New York to be, I don't even want to be a part of it. Just remove my statue, please. And then I think it took whatever it took them, they're like removing the statue. I mean, that's how bad New York is.
I don't think Jefferson had any other vision for New York other than it not be the U.S. capital. He wasn't a big fan of New York. But yeah, that's crazy. Go back to what you said earlier, Rebel. You say that like it's a Democrat plot to keep Democrats in office. What about the WEF plot to go to a one world government? I mean, that would eliminate Democrat control in the United States if there was a one central government, you know, in the sky somewhere that controls all what you do.
They definitely want to do that because basically we have China's economy. If you think about it, everything in the United States.
Hang on before you go. Let me throw this little salt in there on the wound.
You're going to throw some salt in there.
Because you had the same thing going on in Europe. It's not just the United States that's experiencing this, where there's hard left push to allow people from underdeveloped countries into the more developed countries into the West. So that's why I say, is it not maybe a world one government plot?
Yeah, they definitely want a one world plot. Definitely. It started in Europe. Definitely. There's a lot of Muslims in Europe now. And you see them, they're taking over the streets in there. And you see the Muslims that were in Ireland that are taking over the streets. They got upset with that. But they do want a one world government. And the United States owns a lot of stuff because you figure we own China. There's not too many adversaries out there. I mean, Russia is very strong. China has a good military, but we could collapse them if we just stop buying their goods and stuff like that. Then they have no economy. They got no money because China only exports really just, junk to Walmarts and Targets and all that stuff. So if you're not paying attention, I guess their main goal would be they want to replace the great replacement theory. You know what I'm saying? They're saying it's fake, but basically that's what it is. They want to get rid of, I guess, white people. I don't know. The white man is the devil, I guess, these days, and they just want to get rid of us. But you just got to pay attention out there. You got to get out and vote. That's the only thing I can tell you people is get out and vote. Learn some history and stuff like that. And I guess, I don't know. It's either, that's why I started the show. I'm either going to talk about it and try to educate people to get you out and vote, or we're going to have to start using some Constitution amendments, I guess. I don't know. It's the only thing I can see because it feels like tyranny all over the place.
That's where I'm getting at is I think that if you're going to have if I was the evil mind that I'm going to put together the one world government. I'm the Klaus guy. Weird. No, I'm not. I can't even say that I'm that guy. That dude's super strange. So one thing I would have to do if I'm looking at the world as a whole, European governments, they're kind of used to having somebody tell them what to do. They jumped into the European Union with a unelected an appointed board that controls their economy. Everybody sucked up to that pretty quick, so they're going to be okay. But you look at Americans, you have the Constitution, that's a problem. The only way to change the Constitution is there can't be any laws that pass. The only way to change the Constitution is passed through Congress, and amendments are passed through Congress, signed off by the president, and then ratified by 3/4 of the states. That means you got to have the voters involved. So if you flood us with essentially the city of Cincinnati every month, which is what's happening, eventually you'll have enough people here that might be of a like mind. I wouldn't say low IQ, but of a like mind to not have ingrained the American spirit so hard and our love for the Constitution. To them, it's just a piece of paper. What's the big deal if you change it?
True that.
100%. And they want population control. They always talk about well, there's too many people here. So, I mean, some people say the vaccines got involved with some of that.
Well, isn't that also what the WEF, the World Economic Forum, plot for one world government? Isn't that also population control at that point?
Yeah, they want population control. They're all worried about climate and stuff like that. Throw more money at us. We can fix the climate. They can't even fix my potholes. You know what I'm saying?
Did you see that picture? It was just people just running across the border. No one was stopping. No one's getting checked. They were just going across the border.
It's an open invasion. It's an open invasion, and there's millions. Some say it's up to 20 million illegals that came in since Joe Biden.
And then there's your little picture of the guy talking about the alligators and stuff like that.
These are the nuts that are running shit. These are the nuts.
It's like they want to put alligators to bite people. It's like, come on, dog.
He puts that out there. Okay, what's your alternative then? What's your alternative? Because the only alternative that they're putting up is that we need more border patrol agents down there to process them through quicker. There's not. We're gonna slow it down. They're trying to make deals like, well, just give us 5,000 a day. 5,000 a day. I mean,
that's too many. What it have to used to be
Why
before?
do you
had to
want
take a
5,000 a day?
And you got only the good ones came in. You're like, okay, what is your job? What are you going to do here? Do you have somewhere to work? That's how it used to be when you came to Ellis Island with the Statue of Liberty. You had to have a skill. You had to have a job and stuff like that. Someone sponsor you. Yeah. You don't have none of this. I don't even know what these people are going to do. I guess build houses. I don't know.
The laws haven't changed. It's still what it was before. If you wanted to migrate into this country and become a citizen legally, then you do it from wherever you come from. You go to the U.S. Embassy or U.S. Consulate and you fill out the paperwork. They go through the background checks. And it takes, in my opinion, probably takes too long, 5 years or so, depending on what country you're coming from. Like Mexico, all the people coming across the border for asylum right now are not Mexicans. Mexicans can't file for it because there's no reason. It's a stable country. So Mexicans aren't getting this. It's not Mexicans coming across the border. It's everybody literally from everywhere else in the world except for Mexico.
Did you see Denver, Colorado?
I hear they're having some issues there with their sanctuary city, Denver style.
I mean, Colorado. We have family members in Colorado. I don't even want to go to Colorado ever again until they figure out what the hell's going on. But this is a video of like what it looks like in Colorado. They took 40,000 migrants. They're all over the city. And Elon Musk had posted on X today saying, be prepared for 400,000, 10 times what it is right now. Check it out.
Oh, my. Yeah, and pretty soon these people are going to come off the assistance. You know what I'm saying? And then what happens? That's why they're saying there's going to be migrant protests and riots.
Well, look, guys, they can't work while they're waiting on if they get a court date to hear their asylum status in 6 years. It's illegal for anybody to hire them.
A hungry father got down on his knees and used a pole to try and fish food out.
Trying to go through like trash enclosures to get food.
No, it's going to get rough.
Their standards of living hadn't gone down doing that.
That were staying in the same location.
You're right. You're right.
In Denver, Colorado.
Crazy.
We're not showing these folks a better life. We're not bringing them in right. If you're going to bring them in, get them through the process, give them a green card, let them go to work, let them become Americans. And that should be the goal when you cross the border. If you want to be here, you're here to to become a citizen at some point. You should be on a path to that. But what
The
they're doing now
city-
is not going to work. 90% or greater of these guys that have these asylum claims will be they'll be rejected in 6 or 7 years after they've been here. They've established things. They've figured out a way to make a living, and they have family. Probably drop a few kids. So how then at that point do you deport them? And that's where we got ourselves in a quagmire. I think we got.
If you have a family, what I was telling you earlier, if you have a family and you're coming across in a caravan and you're coming across and you go and through Mexico trying to cross the border, and you meet up with a cartel that's trying to give you a fee and you can't afford the fee, and they take half your family stays here and the rest of the half will go through. That's the payment. And then once you get some money, then I'll give you your family back. The families are willing to do anything. I would do anything for my family. I know you guys would do as well. And this is like one of the cartel members order a gas station to be set on fire. I mean, it looks like this.
No, these are low IQ people. That's fucking wild.
This is on Cartel's order. Say, hey, I want you to do this. And if someone has your kid and the only way you get them back is to comply or pay money, I mean, you're putting people in a very strange position. One, someone who's hungry and starving to death. Tell me what you wouldn't do to get some food if it's life or death. You're starving to death, on the streets of America and American cities. And plus, someone has your family hostage. Like, what would you not be willing to do? Even good people would do some crazy things. I would myself if someone had my family hostage. And that's a lot of people crossing the border, even though they may be good people.
I think that I think you're looking at it like an American. You got to realize they grow up in societies where that's the way things are done. It's just the way things are done. It's not like it's shocking or heartbreaking for them. It's just the way the world works outside of this border. It's pretty nice here in the United States. We have laws, you have protections. You don't have those in other places unless it's given to you by literally a criminal gang. And if you're on the wrong side of that, or your father's on the wrong side of that, then you got problems.
So, Rebel,
but you won't like this either.
We're
But a lot of
gonna
times
be
when that
this summer, and then the elections coming up. It's all part of the plan. You know what I mean? The Democrats are smart. They stay ahead. They've been talking about climate change forever, all that stuff. It's coming. It's coming to a head. All I say is protect yourself, baby. Protect yourself at all times.
And make sure you vote.
Beans and bullets, baby. Beans and bullets. It's going to be the summer of love in 2024, like they did.
Bullshit. Not good.
Not good.
I tell you, I believe the United States is a self-healing system. We've wavered back and forth and seemed to get to the edge, even into a civil war. But it always seems like it's a self-righting system. With our I think the electorate finally all gets on one page, and I think hopefully they'll be there come November, both with the Congress and the president.
I mean, remember after 9/11, all the unity, that was the first time it was all the unity, even though 9/11 was very shady, very, very shady. But the unity after that was great. Imagine we had social media back then on 9/11. It would have been a lot different.
This is the pro-Hamas. This is in New York right now, live. Look at
movement.
all those people, bro.
They're committing genocide in Israel right now. In the West Gaza Strip, bro, the bank, bro, they are destroying it. You see all the videos. I've seen videos of the IDF just mowing down teachers, waving white flags coming across with people, and they're just mowing them down. It's wild over there.
Sad, really.
It is. It's horrible. And some people say Israel let them in because Israel's got a secure ass border, and they're going to let these dudes fly in on fucking, what are they, chair helicopters or something with parachutes, bro? Come on.
Paragliders.
Paragliders, yeah.
Lawn chairs with helicopter blades.
What is that, lawnmowers in the air, bro?
Yeah, I guess I look at it different. I think when you kidnap 6-month-olds and you murder children, put them in ovens, and intentionally target them as the result of your violent action, I don't really care what happens to you after that. I really don't.
I mean, they've been fighting over there like that forever. I mean, we're the only ones that back Israel. So I don't know. But Israel, I think, has blackmail on every congressperson in Congress and presidents. And You've seen Epstein. Epstein was part of the Mossad. Billy Clinton in a blue dress painting. You had George Bush in front of the Jenga towers. It's a lot going on. I hear. You want to hear a wild story I heard today?
Go ahead.
I don't know. This is all allegedly, but I was doing some research today, and I guess Jeffrey Epstein had a plane ticket of all 4 of the planes that took off on 9/11. I guess people that were in the know knew 9/11 was going to happen, so someone bought the plane tickets for souvenirs, and they were warned ahead of time.
About what?
I haven't heard
9/11.
that.
Huh.
And then because all the 9/11 evidence too was wild too. Some people say there's like thermite. I guess that stuff that keeps burning. Because you remember after 9/11 the fires kept burning, and then there was burning cars after that. So I mean,
This
I don't
right
know if
here.
any of it's true. It's just alleged, but it's wild out there.
Lady Victoria's Instagram story on Thursday not only did Epstein know about the September 11th attacks on the Twin Towers before they happened, but even allegedly bought plane tickets as souvenirs of the horrifying and heartbreaking national tragedy. If it was on X, you have to believe it, I guess. Huh?
Well, I don't know if I believe it, but I mean, because a lot of stuff's weird, like the AI with Taylor Swift and all that. That's the problem with AI. You've seen the Joe Biden and the fatigue AI. It looks real to me. I would think that's a real picture. So that's going to be another war.
They're getting close. I think they're almost too polished. It looks like almost a too perfect of a picture on those. And I haven't looked at a lot of them, but I saw the one with Joe Biden. It just something about it didn't look right. Especially
Joe Biden looks like he had some sense.
Yeah,
that's AI for sure.
The uniform looked too good. Looked too tight.
Yeah,
It looked like somebody
wrinkly.
had been wearing one of those for a minute.
Yeah, it's wild out there. It's
Did you
just
see
wild.
Rebel? You see Elon Musk for the very first time. I seen yesterday. They finally did that chip implant into a human's brain.
Yeah, I saw that Neuralink. That's gonna be very interesting. Because wouldn't you want to sign up for that if you're gonna have like super brain power?
Well, he was when they were interviewing him, like, I don't know, last year, they were interviewing him saying, what is it like to have this chip that's making you do the right things? It's taking away free will. Like, you're always trying to be productive and you're always doing the right things. Elon Musk had a remark saying it's like having a bomb strapped to your chest and you have to do the right things at all times or else. That's what it's like to have this chip in your head. It makes you super productive. And I was like, damn, that sounds pretty cool. But I don't know, taking away free will, it seems like very unbiblical. Just like, if you look at the Bible and it's talking about end times, there'll be peace in the Middle East. So as long as there's fighting in the Middle East, you never have to worry about you're in the end times. But whenever there's peace in the Middle East, that's the beginning of the end. So, the fact that they're fighting in the Middle East is not the worst thing.
It could be like some type of mind control too, because like I hear like there was supposed to be some option for like all cars that are built by like 2028 would have like a kill switch. So maybe that's for like your mind. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, this person's about to do this, just donk them all. So I don't know.
California's trying to get a law passed that all the cars built there will have a kill switch, or a governor on them. You can't go above the speed limit.
Wow.
I sure don't want. Nobody's putting anything into my mind. You can't. I don't want anybody pulling off the thoughts that run through there. I'll go to jail.
Yeah. Again. Yeah. But the news, the way that they were spinning it today is saying that someone who's blind, having this chip in your head would allow you to be able to see. Or someone who, like, as you're getting old and you're suffering from dementia or like gracefully trying to get old, but you're losing your mind, it would allow you to keep your knowledge as you get older and not lose, mental capacity or something like that. So it's not
safe and effective.
One of their other goals. One of the other goals is to make a paralyzed man walk. They think that they can bridge the break in the spinal cord and produce signals from the brain to tell basically your lower half what to do. And I think the first person they put it into is a paraplegic.
Oh, is that the first one?
I think that's like the first guy was paraplegic.
Right? Yeah, no limbs.
Something. But that's his first goal to do that. But he does say that eventually it would evolve into where basically you hear Joe Rogan talk about it a lot on his podcast about there'll be no secrets because you'll be able to know what one is thinking. I don't want a part of that.
Well, you're lucky.
You're on the Christian side of it. I'm
good.
You go on the Christian side of it. I can't imagine that not being the mark of the beast at some point.
Getting the chip in your head.
You got a chip in your head. I think that's that has to qualify for mark of the beast, right? Where you're no longer in control of your thoughts.
They say the iPhone is the mark of the beast.
Just so they know where you are at all times and have a camera on you at all
If you have an Android, you're
bite
good.
on the back. It's got the Apple bite on the back. Well, Apple introduced the smartphone. You know what I'm saying? They were the kings. So
well, they're the pioneers. Apple, Steve Jobs, no?
Yeah, they were the first really to do the smartphone.
No, it was the first smartphone. Yes.
I mean, you had the BlackBerry, but it wasn't like the apps and all that. I mean, they took it to the next level.
No, I had the Blackberries up until the iPhone. Blackberries are good for sending text, but that was about it. You weren't on the internet. iPhone was on the internet.
Yeah. You were on the internet, and it wasn't the one that flips. It was the one you're sitting there pushing buttons and having apps and playing chess and stuff.
It was glass screen. The first one was a touch screen, just like this one, like the current iPhone.
The iPhone.
So hang on, let's go back to if I have an Android phone, then I don't have the mark of the beast. I'm good.
No, I don't. Google is probably worse than Apple.
Fucking Google. Damn, Google got me again.
Well, they were doing something in New York where they were putting like a chip in your wrist. So instead of having like touchless pay, where you can, you can just tap your card instead of swiping it and, whatever, you just had some chip in your wrist and you can actually just wave your hand over the cash register and that chip would be like the touchless pay and you would pay. And that was like some kind of chip they put as far as money's concerned. I seen that they were doing that, that was like 2 years ago or something in New York. This is during coronavirus. And they're even talking about putting a chip in you about the whether or not you've been vaccinated, because the vaccination cards, so many people were forging them that they wanted to put a chip in you to say whether or not you've been vaccinated. That's what I was thinking, the mark of the beast.
Well, there was a job.
Nobody's putting shit in me.
Getting in and out of the building, they had a chip in you. Yeah, that's the future. That's where we're heading. But hopefully we don't. I mean, I don't know.
You guys hear me say this a lot. Our answer is in the Constitution. Constitution prohibits the government forcing me to put anything inside my body.
Except for that vaccine. They forced a lot of people to get that vaccine.
Yeah, Kamala Harris was like, I think it's unconstitutional
if they could
for someone to tell someone to do with your body. And she was talking about like birth control and abortions and stuff. But it's like, but you want us to take the vaccination and put that in our body. What are you talking about here?
Look, the government can't compel you to take any foreign substance into your body. They can't compel you to tell you what to wear. The Constitution just doesn't allow it.
Well, you can't go to school without the measles and mumps shot.
Well,
no, you can. You can go without school.
You can.
And stuff, yeah. But the military, you need to have the vaccines. And some jobs are telling you had to have the vaccines to work there. So that's not quite the government, but it's other entities. And the government's probably weighing their, putting a thumb down on these corporations to make them do that.
They are, but it goes back to, and we still haven't seen it. You've seen some constitutional fights get all the way to the Supreme Court. Canada had their one recently about the how the government handled the convoy in their capital city, Ottawa, I believe. But you've got some more they're going to make their way to the Supreme Court. I say at the end of the day, the Constitution saves us from having to put stuff in our body or being forced to take on these type of things. That's why there's not a national driver's license. Constitution doesn't allow it. The federal government's not in charge of everybody.
Well, that's all I got right there, man. It's just always been something. It's always the border. It's Donald Trump. I think they're going to have a vote in Nevada. When's that coming up? Like tomorrow or Thursday?
That's February. I believe it's February, right? Next week, Monday or something. Tuesday. I think.
But there's like nobody in Nevada, right?
No, it's true. I think Trump's the only one on the ticket there. Nikki Haley's not on the ticket.
Yeah. And then Nikki Haley, she's trying to raise some more money and and everything, but she's trying to defend herself, saying, "No, there is a path to victory, but there's not a path to victory, is there?"
I heard her today talk about she thinks she can do better in South Carolina than she did in New Hampshire, but no point has she won anything. She's picked up a couple of delegates, but she cannot second or third in everything she's done.
Yeah, she cannot lose South Carolina. If she loses South Carolina, I mean, she has to admit she's done wasted millions and millions and millions of dollars.
I don't know.
Don't you think
they might keep dumping money?
Don't you guys think that? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you, Rebel. Go ahead.
No, you're all good.
Don't you guys think that her ticket's already punched? She's got enough money to get through South Carolina, but that's it. She's not really talking anything past South Carolina.
Well, I think right now what she's doing is she's committing career suicide, because what you do right now at this point is you just bow out, fall in line, and then live to fight another day. You don't want to, fall on the sword on this election. She doesn't have it, but she wants to keep on going and fall on the sword, and you're going to close the door to other opportunities you might have. Now, the path that she's going, she might get, a job to be on CNBC or something like that, be on one of these talk shows or something, but her career of being someone in a cabinet member or some position of authority in Trump's, cabinet or in his team, she's pretty much ruining those chances in a lot of the Republican Party.
Well, they say she's going to be Trump's VP.
No, dude. She's walked past
that.
that.
Maybe she's going the Christie model. Christie running for president is the only thing that's kept him in speaking engagements and being on news programs to be paid. He's made a career out of it, so maybe that's the path she's headed.
Yeah, but she'll be fine. She'll work for like CNN. I mean, she's got tons of dough anyway from all the campaign finances and stuff. So she just spends it up, say she's doing stuff for her campaign. But yeah, she's done. I'm curious to see though what Trump's going to do with the VP. Though I'm still curious what he's going to do with the VP. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like people like Nikki Haley, Ramaswamy, JFK. Whoever Trump doesn't pick, you have a great Ron DeSantis. You have a great chance next year when Trump's out of the way. When I say next year, I mean the next election cycle in 4 years. You have a great chance once Trump's out of the way. But as long as Trump is in there, he was elected in election interference and someone stole the election. He's gonna be elected unless you do something malicious and take it from him. It's his. That Trump train, no one's gonna stop that Trump train. It's pretty obvious. So Trump, becoming the next president of the United States, that's going to happen. All you're going to do is just get out of the way for now and live to fight another day. The next election cycle, you got a good chance, man. Ramaswamy has a good chance. Ron DeSantis has a good chance. Nikki Haley probably has enough investors. She could probably do better than both of those guys. If it wasn't for Trump, Nikki Haley could be the Republican nominee. But right now, there's no way you're going to do it. Back out now before you cause too much damage where you don't have an opportunity in 2028.
Well, I hope I've been thinking a lot about Vivek, and I think if Trump picks Vivek as a VP, that'd be a great setup because then he'd have the backing of the RNC and all that. And I like the way he talks, but it's going to be different when he's in charge. You know what I'm saying? People like he's Obama or something like that. But I don't think he is. I think he's gone full MAGA now, and I think there's no going back. I think.
Oh, Vivek has been he's been on the Trump train from day one. He started off campaigning, I'm going to pardon Donald Trump of all those charges. That was like the first thing he was saying, like way before, like when they first started. And you're like, who is this guy? But now you know exactly who he is. And he's positioned himself in a good position for 2028. And I think he's also in a good position, as hard as a worker he is, to really make a difference in the team of Trump and the cabinet of Trump and maybe Secretary of Defense, Attorney General, something. He really has some great ideas. Attorney General, something.
He could fulfill his campaign promises about disassembling the bureaucratic government as Attorney General. He could actually do that from that position. That's where I'd like to see him. We'll see how he does for 2028. 2028 is a long way away. And go back to Trump. I think the next test for Trump is to see how he does against Biden. I think it's a foregone conclusion. He'll be the Republican nominee. But, polls are back and forth. And since 2016, you really can't rely on the polls either. They talked about the red wave, and that didn't come to fruition. So it's going to be interesting to see how actually he buttons up against Biden. And good thing about Biden is, man, you never know what that guy's going to do tomorrow. What next weird thing is going to break on him. October surprise this year ought to be interesting on both sides.
Well, I think that's why he's not going to war with Iran too right now, because that war will take a long time. So if he wins, they'll probably go to war with Iran because they want a regime change in there.
Well,
I don't see with the pressure that Iran's putting on us at this point. I don't see how you can avoid military action. I won't say war, but military action. It has to be done.
Well, it's not just that. It's action at the border. We're not doing anything. It's like balancing the budget. It's like, hey, man, we have to have this budget figured out in 3 weeks. Who cares? Let's just let the time clock, the hourglass just run out of sand. And then you'll have to do something. There's no way you're going to let the country go out of business and stop. So someone will do something. Hey, man, we really have to do something with the border, man. There's a big problem. Let's just let it happen. Hey, man, we got American soldiers dying. You see the family was on Fox today. The American soldiers dying and getting killed. We have to have a response. We don't want to widen the war. It's like your response on every issue, no matter what it is to do nothing. Like what the? And then he even said today, he said, well, if I had the power, then I could do something. You're like, what? Like, aren't you the president? You don't have any power to do anything? The news
I think the border's going to. I think the border's going to get him. I don't see it getting any better between now and November. And I would be shocked once again, just like I'd be shocked that the terrorist cell didn't put somebody across that border since it's been open in the last 3 years. I will be shocked if the Republicans don't bear down and start picking every person that's been arrested in the United States for any horrible crime, and that person's immigration status is amnesty. And they're going to start laying that out there.
Oh,
it's
not
interesting to see.
Every single thing that happens. A car got stolen last night. Someone got shot. People are just shooting people, but you're like, that person crossed the border, and it's Joe Biden's the reason why that family member's dead. And this family member just died in a car accident because he was T-boned by a drunk immigrant. I mean, anything and everything that happens is going to be because an immigrant that crossed the border, and that's going to be until November. And then you might not hear about it as much, but you're going to hear about everything and up to November about stuff like that for sure.
Right. I truly believe that if Trump gets it, then there'll be something done about the border. Trump doesn't get it, that border is crashed.
Oh yeah. And even when Trump gets into office, anything that happens, you'll say, oh boom, that was Joe Biden. Oh boom, that was Joe Biden. Oh boom, that was the Democrats. Even when Trump is in office, they're going to blame it on the previous administration, because you're going to go back to, I secured the border, but until then all these things are happening because of Joe Biden, the Democrats. I mean, I think that's going to be there forever. And before we leave, I know it's getting a little late. Here's a little whodunit situation, a little justified or not. Check out this freaking idiot that fucking jumps on top of a police car and stuff like that. I mean, Lanu, you're in the car. Some little white boy jumps up on your hood. What are you doing here?
Probably the same thing.
What are you doing here?
I'd probably just drive off too. What are you supposed to do? You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. That dude got a trophy. It's like crap. That's embarrassing.
Mama didn't whip that butt enough. It's like, well, what the hell are you doing, bro?
Right, he needs some home raising. That's his problem.
Yeah, man. You never got a little spanking when you grew up. So, now law enforcement has to give you a little spanking. But jumping on top of the police car, like, what do you think was going to happen? He was going to stop and your friends could bust his windows out and y'all could take him into a citizen's arrest and defund the police right there on the intersection. Like, what do you think is going to happen when you jump on a dude's car?
I mean, I don't know where that was at, but if you're working for a department where, you can't be aggressive, or you can't use, you're limited on the type of use of force that you can use in protest, then, well, I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to somebody? And that also emboldens the people when they know that they can jump on and intimidate the police. So look at me, I'm jumping on a police car. What's he going to do about it? Hit the gas. That's what he did about it. But yeah, it's poor decision on that dude's part.
Speaking of like defund the police, man, defund the police. Cori Bush, you see that shit today on X? Well, it's been all over Fox too. She's like, defund the police, but she spent $70,000 on her own personal protection for the police. Check this out.
Into the highest levels of integrity. I also believe in transparency, which is why I can confirm that the Department of Justice is reviewing my campaign.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the wrong story. This is when she's
spending on security services. We are fully cooperating with this investigation, and I would like to take this opportunity to outline the facts and the truth. Since before I was sworn into office, I have endured relentless threats to my physical safety and life. As a rank and file member of Congress, I am not entitled to personal protection by the House and instead have used campaign funds as permissible to retain security services. I have not used any federal tax dollars for personal security services. Any reporting that I have used funds for personal security is simply false. In recent months, right-wing.
Yeah, she's basically, it's all baseless stuff. Which one am I thinking about? Did you see it, Rebel, where they're on there talking about what was it? She hired her husband?
Yeah, she hired her husband and some other dude that thinks he's from Mars that was born like 1 million years ago.
So
right.
She's talking about we need to get back to defunding the police, but I had to pay because I had death threats all my life, and like the husband made like $70,000. So basically, she took the campaign funds and figured out a way to pay herself.
Basically,
she gave it to her husband. So, so you can't pay me, but my husband will protect me because that's what a husband's supposed to do, like protect your wife, So let me give my husband $70,000. And she said that's, the same or below average of what a security person would make to protect me. So she ended up making additional little 70 clams off of, campaign contributions.
Well, they do that with houses. They buy a house and be like, oh, this is my headquarters. This is my campaign car. Jewelry, I need all this. That's what they do with all that campaign money. They just put it in their campaign's name,
No, they're allowed to do it. The other sneaky trick is that they get loans that they had to repay.
This is the clip I was thinking about right here. Wait.
That's the same one. She does go into it a little bit at the end of that, but there's one I think she did earlier this year or late last year. She's wearing
I got
clothes.
I'm looking at it. Let me remove it and put it back in.
I got it right here. You want it right here? I got this one. I think this is the one you're talking about. Where is it at? It's right here.
I see. Oh, I got it right here.
I have security because I know I have had attempts on my life and I have too much work to do. There are too many people that need help right now for me to allow that. So if I end up spending $200,000, if I spend $10 more on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work. So suck it up, and defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police and put that money into social safety nets because we're trying to save lives.
I mean, what are you talking about?
I don't see
She
where
don't
logic's
want the
wrong.
police, but she needs police. You don't need police, but I need it.
She's doing the important work. You're just a peon. What are you talking about?
Yeah, she has a threat.
Deserves to be here.
She has a threat on her life, but no one else in the country does.
No.
Especially in the inner cities. You don't
It
have
doesn't
any
matter.
danger.
There's
You don't
plenty of
need
threats
police.
on lives. It's only important on the lives that are worth protecting. She's special. She's an elitist. She needs to be protected. Whereas, everybody else is going to die anyway.
Yeah. Her lives matter. That's her shirt.
Her
Her
lives
lives
matter.
matter. Not yours. You don't need police. Let's defund the police. Because that what I'm saying right there is what got you to elect me in office. So I'm gonna keep on saying that. Defund the police. But for me personally, I need the police. Matter of fact, I need the police. Plus, I'm gonna pay $70,000 more for extra people, or I'm just gonna pay it and put it in my pocket and justify it because I gave it to my own checking account with me and my husband.
It sounds like we got a deal. She initially talked about spending $200,000. She only spent $70,000. We really got a bargain on her security detail. She was ready to go to $200,000.
I know.
Keep her there.
Yeah, she's trying to say 70,000 is nothing. The average rate is 200,000. Yeah. So really, you got a bargain, and then but I think the news were saying the husband's like never been a security. He doesn't have a background in security or
Doesn't
whatever.
have a license. You have to have a license to provide security and charge money for security. You have to have a license. If you don't have a license, you call the husband.
Yeah, that's right.
No, that's why I say protect yourselves at all times. Get yourself a gun. Go to the gun range. Practice shooting. That's the only thing you can do because it takes a long time. What's the average 911 call? If you call 911, how long does it usually take them? 2-3 minutes?
It depends on where you are. It might be the next day if you live where I live in the Houston area.
Right?
On priority calls, in the mid 2000s, I think you had an average response time of like 8 minutes. I think it's gone up since then because there's shortages of police. So you're 8 minutes or more before police are going to come to your door.
What did Tom McDonald say? He said, "Call the police and call for a pizza and see which one gets there faster."
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a crime in progress or priority call. I mean, that takes that's trumps any other call going on. Now you could be lucky in the patrol officer just around the corner. He'll be there in seconds, but the average times is what you look at. And right now, I think it's above eight minutes nationwide. You're in some more rural area. There's some places out in the county that I work that the response time 45 minutes. But the folks that lived out there, you go ahead and bring an ambulance if somebody's breaking into their house because one of them are going to need it because they're not going to wait for the police.
No. I mean, areas like that, whenever you have someone like a gun charge, you're not supposed to have a gun or felony in possession of a firearm. And in like cases like that, a jury is very sympathetic, or places like in the North where you need a gun to protect yourself from wildlife and things like that. You're on the food chain in some fashion, or like in Montana, you need a gun because of the animals and stuff that are crossing over there. I mean, I think like the federal laws on gun laws and stuff like that, they're a lot more lax depending on where you are.
I don't think the feds back off on it. I don't think the feds ever back off on it. Depends on it is like in Texas, if you're been discharged.
Well, I mean, a jury of your peers in some of those areas where the police don't really show up so fast. You have to protect yourself.
I know there's a gentleman out in one of the rural parts of this county, and I want to say his body counts 5 or 6 over the years of people who've come out of Dallas because his house is right off the side of the road, especially around Christmas. The last time I know of, he dropped 2 guys in his driveway, come home from Christmas shopping. They're unloading his presents out of his house into the yard. He blocks them in the driveway and drops them both in the driveway. But by this time, though, man, this guy's been through it before. He's never gone to jail. I want to say his body counts 5 people breaking in his house, and he's handled business and called the law afterwards.
Body count.
Actually, that's probably going to make it on my podcast. That's actually a very interesting story of how one guy's house can be broken into over the years so many different times just out of the random, and how unfortunate it has been for each one of those persons that have done it.
I wonder what would happen if you paid $70,000 for what's her name's husband to secure him. I wonder how secure he would be if he paid that $70,000.
Yo, man, nobody survived a burglary at his house.
It could have saved 5 people's lives. Could have been 5 people's lives could have been saved, really. Or what do you do? Like put a sign out in front of your house that says, "Look, I've already killed 5 people. Try to steal something, see what happens."
It would have worked for this gentleman. It would have worked. That is a true story.
It's always shoot first, ask questions last, right? That's the rule.
Well, I think everyone shoot him and then drag him in the house. How does it work?
No, he's gone to grand jury every time. The last 2 he dropped in the driveway. I went out and worked that one, but he's been to grand jury every time. He's been no billed every time. How could you blame me? The man comes home and you break into his house. I think one time he was home. I think it was in the middle of the night. The first time I think he was at home, and when they're breaking in his house and he drops however many are there. I don't know how many were there. I can get that put to get the story together, but it's happened over 5 occasions.
Texas, at least 5 people, because New York or Minnesota or wherever, his ass be going to jail.
No, brother, we're still free in Texas.
Lucky you live in Texas. Texas is a great country.
Yeah, and a lot of states don't have that stand your ground law, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
the stand your ground doesn't apply if you're inside your home. You're not expected to leave your home if somebody's breaking into it. Most states, that's.
But what about in the driveway? That's different, though, right?
In some states, it could be different.
Home,
yes.
I'm in a neighborhood, or I'm somewhere. I'm coming home. I'm pulling through the driveway. I got some people doing some things that they shouldn't be doing. In my opinion, they're stealing something. They're taking off with something that belongs to me. The value of the stuff is $200-300. It's not like a big thing. Like in New York, you're allowed to steal up to $900, and the police won't even bother with it. But they got something $900 or under. You come in there, you can shoot them, no problem.
I don't know about New York laws.
I'm talking about Texas. I'm talking about Texas.
In Texas law, Texas looks at shooting slightly different. You're allowed to use deadly force to protect your property. Now, I can't come out if you're breaking into my neighbor's house. I can't use deadly force to protect my neighbor's property, but I can use deadly force to protect my own property. In Texas, if somebody is conducting or engaged in criminal mischief after the hours of darkness, you can use deadly force. But in Texas, the main philosophy behind it is that you don't have to wait to see what an actor's intentions are in certain situations. If somebody is kicking on my door or breaking into a window, I can shoot them through the door. I don't have to wait to see what their intentions were. I can automatically assume, or I can just have evidence of its face that their intentions are not good. And so I have the right to protect myself on that. Some states, they want to see that some sort of intention is being shown by the actor. Breaks in, he's got a knife, breaks in and he's got a gun. That makes it a cleaner shoot. There was a gentleman in California where the guy comes up behind him as he's trying to go into the door. And I think he killed one and one got away, but they didn't arrest him. It was a good shoot because they were running in on him. But and the other thing is, he said, my wife and child were right behind the door. I didn't want to open the door when it's like a little hallway before he gets to where his door's at. And they were rushing down the hallway at him when he turned on them and chased him out of the little hallway shooting. But they revoked his concealed carry license on that.
That was California, right? That was California.
It was California. So every state's slightly different. I don't know what they are in New York. It kind of goes back to how does the state look at it. In Texas, we don't look to you don't have to prove intent. You can assume intent. In other states, they look for some proof of intent.
So I seen online someone had just lost a case like that. Some people that were going to a party or something, they were lost or whatever, and they went down this mile-long driveway, and then it wasn't the right one, so they stopped there, and he came out with his shotgun, and then he killed all of them, both cars, like a young kid, like a girl, like 19 years old and something like that, shot them all dead with the shotgun. And his wife had a gun too.
No, there's no.
And he got
somebody just
convicted
presenting
on that
himself
shit.
on their own. Somebody, you can't shoot somebody for trespassing, and that's essentially all they would have done at that point. Criminal mischief is, let's say I hear somebody cut my tires. I hear the air coming out of my tires at night, and I go outside of my house and it's dark, and I shoot the son of a bitch. I don't have to. I can assume his intentions were bad because he's where he shouldn't be in the darkness, and he's doing something, not just standing there. Now that's not a good shoot. I don't think that'd be a good shoot in Texas or any other state.
Yeah. Well, no, this guy was guilty. They gave him like all of them. And then as far as the DA was concerned, he was saying he went out there and he just wanted to kill somebody. And though it didn't even give him a chance to leave, just started shooting them. It's like, wow. And he said he was irritated that he woke him up at night. Is what the DA said. He was irritated that he woke him up at night, so he just went out there bloodthirsty and just wanted to mow him down. Didn't even give him a chance to leave and killed them all. And their parents
Hard to argue against that. I mean, it's what it seems like, right?
Well, that's what the jury thought.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was in Texas, but it was somewhere. I did see that one in Texas. What was the one where the in Texas he went over there to tell the neighbors and he killed 5 of them? He went in after the school shooting, Rebel.
What are y'all talking about? I wasn't paying attention.
The shooting in Texas where the guy went across the street and basically they were complaining with the police to him that he was being too loud, like a noise complaint. So he went across the street and killed all 5 of them with the gun.
Oh, I didn't even hear about that. That's wild.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm familiar with that either. I would also venture to say that is an unlawful homicide resulting in murder charges should be brought.
Yeah, I mean,
I do. You know what? I do remember that it was too loud. It was you know what? That was a Mexican immigrant that killed that did the shooting.
Yeah, it was like 5 people are dead after being shot at their Texas home. Police say the shooter reportedly went to the victim's home after they asked him to stop his shooting. Oh yeah, he was shooting in the backyard is what he was doing. He was shooting. And they said, "Hey, can you keep it down?" Because their baby couldn't sleep. And he told them, "I'll do what I want in my front yard," and then went over there and then shot them all. 5 people dead.
I do remember that.
That's wild.
That was right after the school shooting, wasn't it? It was like a couple weeks after.
Man, that's in that development that Texas is suing out not far from where you're at on the east side of 45. I forget what that development's called, where it's questionable loans for illegal immigrants. Pretty much they're putting in double wide trailer parks. It's like the largest one in the state. But that's where that happened at.
This was in Cleveland, Texas, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah. That's right. It's It was right here
at a home in the city of Cleveland. This is Texas. It's about an hour away from Houston. Authorities say they got a 911 call about harassment just after 11:30 last night. And when they got
Still
there,
think it's the same place.
they found 5 people dead. They range in age from 8 to 40.
Yeah, that was the one. I remember that. They were all from Honduras. If
Yeah,
that
that's the one on
today,
49. That is
crossing the border.
Yeah, this is that area that I'm talking about, though. Let me see if I can find it. It is around the city of Cleveland.
Yeah, they were all from Honduras. Like today, you would say you would find out and find the origin of when they crossed the border or whatever.
Mm-hmm. That place I'm talking about, maybe Plum Grove. That sounds familiar. But the state of Texas is suing for that to, I think, stop, or at least them change the practices. But I think there's even some money laundering in there. But brother, I got to get for the night.
Heck yeah, man. I
Good
tell you
show.
what, we appreciate y'all. Hopefully you learned a little bit about the cartel and got a little bit of some police chatter, but that's all we have from now. We'll be back next time on Kingdom Radio. Thanks.